Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending my talk today. This is my first time giving a talk for Codegarden, and it's also the first time that I am attending the conference. So I'm really excited to be here. This talk is focused around catching the attention of future employers as an early career developer. My name is Alex Morton, and I am a junior software engineer at a startup called Orbit. And essentially, I spent all of last year, 2020, teaching myself how to code and building a portfolio, and with the intention of ultimately switching careers into software engineering. And this is just a bit of a overview of some of the things that I found helpful for ultimately doing that. So a little bit about me, a little bit of a background and my story. I am, as I said, a software engineer at a startup called Orbit now, but I don't have a full traditional background in software engineering at all. Actually, my latest or my most recent job before this, or before being a software engineer, it was working in customer support for another startup. So still in tech, but not necessarily in building or engineering or that kind of thing. I was working in customer support, and I had started teaching myself how to code as a hobby while working in customer support. And I knew that I eventually wanted to make the transition one day into web development and into software engineering. And I knew that if I kept, working at improving my skills on the side, I'd eventually be able to move into more seriously looking for a job as a software engineer. And at the end of 2019, I actually ended up leaving my job in customer support so that I could focus full time on teaching myself how to code and essentially building my portfolio and cultivating my projects to really give myself a good advantage for being able to ultimately make that career switch. And over the course of 2020, I did a lot of things, and we'll go over some of the things I did in this talk, which I'm excited to share. At the end of 2020, I was approached by a startup, which is Orbit, spoiler alert, on Twitter, of all places. My now colleague, he reached out to me on Twitter, introducing me to Orbit and mentioning some of the projects I had been working on, and just basically started a dialogue from there, and asked if I wanted to get to know the company more, and had a few interviews with some teammates. And then at the end of about a week, I had a job offer in hand for being a software engineer with this company. So it was very exciting. That's kind of a broad overview of my background and yeah, that story there. So now we'll get more into the how and the why of being able to stand out for future employers as an early career developer. So overall, I think that this slide here is a very interesting thing to keep in mind throughout your journey into whether you're transitioning into software engineering or kind of just starting out on your journey. But being able to stand out as an early career developer really requires the willingness to take risks and to follow your creative impulses. And taking risks in a more concrete meaning, it's really when we're learning anything new or when we're really stepping out and doing something new that we've never done before, it really does require that we leave our comfort zones, or we kind of take those few steps outside of our comfort zones because we haven't experienced certain things before. And I think when we can have this mentality of, it's normal to take risks, it's normal to maybe feel uncomfortable before showcasing a certain project or before putting a certain project out into the world so that others might have feedback for it. It's normal to feel these things and to take these risks. And then in terms of following your creative impulses, I think this is a really important value for me in my life. Even before jumping into software engineering and web development, I feel that I've always kind of followed this advice for myself of just following my creative impulses. If there's something that I wanted to learn or to build just for the sake of building it or creating it, I would do it, because I think there's so much joy to be found in the process of creating or building just for the sake of doing so, as well as the added benefit of being able to learn something new or to improve your skill set at the end or as a result of doing so. So those two things, having the willingness to take risks and follow your creative impulses, I think those are really good markers to keep in your mind while you're kind of going along your coding journey and looking to break into tech. So the first piece of advice here is to really set yourself up to showcase from the very start. More concretely, this is really talking about your portfolio of projects, or if you want to start a blog about tracking your daily progress. I think that it's really important to start something no matter what level you're at, and to iterate as you go, so as to just iterate and build on the project, build on the way you showcase yourself as your skills improve. I think so often we want to wait until our projects or our skills are perfect before putting them out there, before asking for feedback, before showing them. But the danger here, and I think it's kind of a slippery slope, is that when we are waiting for that future perfect level of where we want to be, or of where we'll feel ready, it's really a moving target, because no matter what level you're currently at, there will always be a better level to be, right? And so if we are at level 1 now, and we say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to feel comfortable really creating a portfolio or something to share my projects when I'm at level 2 or 3. The thing is, when we get to level 2 or 3, it's probably going to be something like, well, actually, let me wait until I'm at level 4 or 5, and then I'll feel comfortable. And then at the result, we never really get there. And so a little bit of a case study here. So this is a screenshot of my personal portfolio from, I think, really the beginning of when I really set out to really cultivate a portfolio and cultivate a place where I could share all my projects. And so this is the page itself, and you can really see that there's not so much going on. I mean, this is the page that I hadn't really done any projects that I wanted to share so much on there, and so it's really the bare bones of it. A little bit of an about me section, and then a bulleted list of knowledge and skills that I was kind of grasping for to put anything there, and then some contact links in the footer. And then this next slide here is more of a fleshed out version of my portfolio at the time when I was when I was really more into searching for a job and sharing this link on job applications. And so you can see that it's really the structure is the same, essentially. And I've just changed a few things. In the bio, I've linked out to a few links, added some more knowledge and skills, that same bulleted list. And then on the right-hand side, this is more of a zoomed out overview of the portfolio projects themselves on the page, and with links out to the GitHub repositories and the links to the apps themselves. And so this is just to show that you can start wherever. You don't have to have anything really ready, but I think just setting yourself up to have something and then to continually iterate on it, it's an important thing. And along the same line is, I'm really a big proponent of blogging as a means of tracking our progress from where we are, not only for being able to see how far we've come day after day, month after month, but it's also a great idea to have something that you can also share with, on your job applications, or you can link out to that and say, look, this is a little bit more of a glimpse into who I am as a developer. And it's a great way to be able to stand out to future employers as a way to really give them a deeper glimpse into who you are as an individual. So this next point here is when looking to stand out to future employers and just even setting yourself apart as an early career developer is to focus on fusing your interests with the coding projects that you create. So essentially, if everyone is unique in what interests them and in what really makes them come alive, or what really sparks their curiosity. And I think being able to harness those unique qualities, unique interests, unique passions, and illustrating those with coding and with your practice projects, that's such a good way to be able to set yourself apart and be able to really showcase your personality through the code, through the vehicle of what you're trying to do professionally. And so how you can do this is you can really just ask yourself how you can showcase these creative ideas that you have, these hobbies that you have. If you're interested in sports or politics or anything, it really can be anything. Ask yourself how you can showcase these creative ideas through coding projects. So a couple of case studies here. This was one of the first apps that I had put together. Very, very basic, nothing crazy here. But it's basically just an app that took a bunch of travel tips that I had sourced from my colleagues at my past company that I worked for in terms of budget-friendly substitutes for traveling places. And I just put them in a list and then had them randomly generate on this get a new travel tip button. And this really was such a fun project for me because, one, it allowed me to explore more explore more of this passion I have for travel and budget-friendly travel, and then put it into an application that I could then share with anyone who wanted to see it, with future employers, and just simply add it to my portfolio. And then another project that I had during COVID, right when things were starting to get locked down, I'll go back to that just to give my brain a little time to focus. I had an idea to start this email newsletter for parents who found themselves at home with kids who couldn't go to school because of COVID-19 restrictions, and just basically sourcing information and virtual events, kid-friendly events, and sending them in a weekly newsletter. Nelson, by the way, is my dog. He's a long-haired dwarf dachshund, and he's 2 years old. But basically, he was the caricature for the project, and so I started this email newsletter, but I also discovered that I could include the landing page as a sort of coding project to showcase. And so then I did that. So that's just being able to really fuse our own personal interests with what we're coding and what we're doing in a creative, professional sense with coding and sharing. Something a little bit more concrete that you can do to really set yourself apart when trying to break into that first software engineering role is to really jazz up your GitHub READMEs and really embellish them and elaborate on your project and describe what's going on. If you think about it for GitHub READMEs, it's really the first thing that someone's going to look at when they land on your project's repository. So it's a great opportunity that I don't see very often, really. It's a great opportunity to stand out and to further share your motivations or how to use the product that you've created to really show that extra bit of empathy for the end user. I think that's a great way to be able to set yourself apart. And what you can include in those READMEs is really anything you want. Sometimes a backstory for what inspired and motivated you to create the project, instructions for how to use it, maybe a demo that you can just create really quickly on Loom. I'll share a couple here. So here's the letters from Nelson README that I just showed you a couple slides back. And so it's really, the thing is, the fact that it's there, it makes it interesting, but it could just as easily not be there. but it just has, some quick information about why the project was built, some features that it had. And this by no means was, expert production level code. This is just me at the level that I was at then, and just sharing it to show how things work and what decisions I'd made. Another quick couple of screenshots here is a project that I'd created for a hackathon sponsored by Twilio and the dev community. And yeah, just the same thing, kind of what the inspiration was, how to set it up locally, some features, future considerations, and that kind of thing. So next up here is, I think it's great advice for anything in life, but especially when you're trying to break into software engineering. It's really to launch yourself into things before you feel ready to do them. Especially on the coding journey, when you're either teaching yourself or you're really just kind of cultivating your skills and improving your skills, there are so many opportunities to take advantage of in order to do that. And what's interesting here is that I really think that it's a good marker of what you should go for when things feel really challenging. And when you think about accomplishing them, you really don't know how you're going to get there. You can't see the steps to take, but you know that if you just put one foot in front of the other and work little by little, you'll eventually get there. And then you'll be able to look back and really look back at all of the progress you've made and remember that time that, I didn't know that I would make it to this point. But yeah, just that feeling of not knowing how you're going to get there, that's a perfect time to launch yourself and just to figure it out on the way. One example, I had mentioned this in my last slide for the README, but this was a hackathon, and I had never done a hackathon before, but I knew I had, when I saw an announcement for a hackathon that was put on by the dev community that I was a part of in terms of blogging, as well as Twilio. I was like, I don't know anything about Twilio or the Twilio API, but I'm gonna try it because I think this could be a good opportunity to fuse what I'm doing now, which was I was building this app I had the idea to build this app for a little website application that would help you keep track of what family members or friends to keep in touch with based on how often you wanted to be reminded of it, and another kind of COVID-19 inspired idea. And so, yeah, the application, it's basically just a list, and you decide who you want to be kept in contact with, and then the alert frequencies, and then the line item turns red depending on the timing from there. But that was the thing. I didn't know how I would do it. It was an opportunity to get comfortable with working with APIs, as well as working with Firestore and storing database information. So always launching yourself before you feel ready is a surefire way to learning and growth at the end of it. This next point is about public speaking, and I know it can be really intimidating for a lot of people. I know it was intimidating for me before, and I mean, I'm just the first time I did it was like this. It was like a virtual conference due to COVID-19 restrictions. But really think about getting yourself out there with public speaking. At the very foundation of it, you can really do it. I think anyone can do it. It's something that you don't have to think about it all at once. You don't have to put yourself in a position where you're in an arena with thousands of people and you're live coding. I don't even think that I would be comfortable doing that right now. But starting small and building from there, are there any virtual meetups that you could volunteer to give a little lightning talk about something you've learned or some idea you've had or kind of enlightening thing that you've learned about the coding journey itself? Just starting small and building from there. Along that same line, last year in July, I submitted a talk for CodeLand Distributed, which was a virtual conference put on by the dev community. And it was great. I didn't have any really, that was my first experience with a conference talk, and it was an amazing experience. And I'm really glad I did it because it was something that I could add to my portfolio and could really link out to be able to show future employers that, I'm involved in the community, and I really take advantage of any opportunities available. Coming up on toward the end here is, I think this point is really important, and it really helped me be able to feel more confident during the job search process, for breaking into tech. And it's to have one or two projects to continually iterate on. And that's to say that usually, I think when we do tutorial projects or practice projects, we kind of do them, we complete them, we publish them or put them on our portfolio, and then they're done with. We don't really revisit them. We just go on to the next thing. But really having one or two projects that you can go deep on, that you can iterate on as your skills improve, it's a great way to track your progress as you learn. But it's also an amazing opportunity to be able to explain more in depth to employers or hiring managers during interviews. And you can talk about obstacles you've had, things that you had to consider differently because of this or that. So ask yourself, is there a project you've done in the past that you've been really interested in and that you'd like to add some more features to now that you know more about coding or your skills have improved? And think about how you can repurpose it now. Can you build it from scratch again in another language or a framework? Can you, can you add different features to it that'll make it more interactive or more user-friendly? So just things like that. A few examples here is that when I was spending 2020 teaching myself how to code and whatnot, I did start a podcast for other women who were kind of going down the same path as I was, the Ladies Code Collective podcast. And aside from doing the podcast itself, I was also able to build a landing page, as I had done kind of for my Letters from Nelson newsletter, and continue to iterate on that. And so essentially I started as a very basic HTML, CSS, and then refactored bit by bit. And then eventually I was able to pull the podcast episodes directly from my podcast host API. And so that's just one way of being able to repurpose things. Another project I have is So You Think You Can France. I worked as a teaching assistant in France in the past, and I created a website on Squarespace that basically I did a ton of research with other teaching assistants and got their points of view on different cities in France where they lived and worked, and got the best pro tips from them for future teaching assistants. And I had built that website on Squarespace in the past, and I kind of took it as an opportunity to really strengthen my skills in React and Firebase as well, with storing the data in Firestore. And it was one of those projects that I was really able to show a true commitment to, and really delve deep in terms of talking about it in interviews with companies. And so to conclude here, whatever the case is, in any case, always keep going. When you are trying to break into tech as an engineer or any sort of technical role that you haven't been exposed to before, the fact of the matter is that you never know when that next opportunity will land for you. It could be tomorrow, it could be a year from now, it could be any time between those two. And so the one thing that you can control is to just keep going and keep learning and keep showcasing your projects and the things that you create. And that will help you really stand out, because it will just paint this picture of who you are as like a unique person with unique interests and unique passions. And you're able to talk about those and illustrate those. And then just before signing off, just this last slide as a reminder that really standing out as an early career developer requires the willingness to take risks and to follow your creative impulses. And I'm really excited to see what you do and to follow your own creative impulses and to showcase your work, and it'll be amazing. So thank you so much for listening to my talk. You can find me on Twitter at my handle at Alex L. Salt with 2 T's. And have a great day. Thank you.